reason your content isn't working is not because your camera or your ideas, it's actually this. So once I started in 2023, I was studying in every single time I was recording. Even something like this, for example, I'll be studying about 5 to 6 times, and I'll literally just be angry at myself. And so with that as well, with the starting point, you're stuttering, trying to get words out, trying to script out my videos properly, but sometimes my videos wouldn't really go that well because of the way I was speaking and the way I was communicating through the camera. And of course, I also made it as if it was a whole entire like essay and not like a conversation like I'm having with you right now. So I'll also be looking at every single content creator I'll be looking at and going like, why are they talking as if they've been doing this for years, which they have been, but they've also been communicating so well and so properly. And most of the time when I try and do it myself, I'll be talking myself out of the video even before I even start hitting record. And so what that happens was like I was comparing someone else's chapter 10 to my chapter 1. And so that happens when you're starting out or you see someone being successful and having such a good authority, and then you go like, why would anybody be listening to me? Like how do they went from chapter 1 to chapter 10? And that was the question I kept asking myself. It was like, how do they get to where they are now? And started comparing myself towards that point as well, which wasn't really a good point of view. But what I want to say about myself from my starting point is that my ideas back then were not really good. And so when I came across YouTube videos, when I came across Instagram Reels, when they were even just a thing, I was always comparing myself, and I'll always be like, I'll do this tomorrow, I'll do this idea, and I'll be trying to copy some ideas from people, and I'll be trying to do all the things that people tell you to do, especially gurus and all those experts and all those certain things. And like, sometimes it'll work, sometimes it wouldn't, but most of the time it didn't. That was because I didn't really have much belief in myself, and of course, when you're someone who's never done this sort of thing before, especially for yourself, it is gonna be hella scary to talk on camera being like this, because right now I'm in the middle of my backyard with a chair and I'm speaking on my phone. And so it's kind of like that. You just have to get rid of that fear and being just doing it over and over again. And sometimes you just have to just go, fuck this, I'm gonna do this. And so these 3 creators are literally the people that I always like to speak up to, and the people who always like to, you know, consume their content pretty much daily, literally. So these are the 3 creators, and the number 1 would be this guy right here, who will always watch and create and always go towards his products and all that. So the first mentor I ever had was Tom Noski, and literally his program changed like my whole entire content a lot when I first started, especially with me just starting out and I wasn't really there in terms of what to do with my content. I was kind of just throwing shit at the wall, which sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But back then I stuttered a whole lot, and I needed to really, you know, build up my communication skills in terms of how I'm talking on camera, and not to think of it as like a fear-mongering thing. And so when I first started talking to him, even when I was talking to him on Tom the Build, which I'll show you, which will be up here somewhere, I'll be stuttering a lot, and I'll be afraid to even speak on camera, and I'll be looking this way, I'll be looking that way, not directly towards the camera, or even speaking with my arms. I'll just be like this, just be really still. And so when I had to go on there and actually speak about my problems, I was afraid that he would laugh at me, but he didn't. He just talked to me about the advice. And so with him and me, we're pretty similar in a way, because he's got ADHD and all sorts of, and I got autism. There was also another thing with me having autism that kind of always made as a negative thing. But when I talk about my experience with alcohol, when I talk about these type of experiences, people started to, you know, either resonate with me, or they actually quite liked it, about how I'm opening up about these certain things as well. When you talk about these things and be open about them, people tend to trust you a whole lot. So that's what he really communicated about me, is that you talk about your photography, you talk about these certain things, you talk about you, but you also talk about how you're going to help your audience and how you're going to help those certain things. But he mainly wanted me to just talk to me about the scripting part of things and how to outline these and make content a lot more easier for yourself to actually do, rather than make it this massive chore to do. So that was the first mentor I had, and now the second mentor, he's a very good guy. So the second guy was Jay Moss. He taught me a lot about how to structure content, and taught me about content formats especially. And with that as well, they taught me a lot about these content formats, how to go viral with each of them, and they actually taught me about like more structure and how to actually like gain views, or either if something's not working, test this thing out and then see if it actually works for that. And also the fact that he actually taught me mostly about AI automation, because at the time he was doing AI agencies and he was talking about a lot of those, but also taught me a lot about structure, taught me a lot about the content. He taught me mostly about what people to compare to, how to actually talk to your avatar, but also how to talk about certain structure, about just scheduling in general, which was a really good thing about him, because he talks about scheduling, how to actually reach out to your pain points throughout your avatar as well, how to actually talk about to your audience and what not to talk about as well. So that's another thing about Jamos. He's a very good one, especially now with his targeting fitness people as well, and so he's doing very well for himself. Well, all three of these guys are doing well for themselves. So that's Jamos, which is the second one. Third person was Caleb Coronas. He taught me a lot about how to make your story into a product, not because it's a liability, but it's because it's actual product. And also with my story as well, having autism, liking me having Batman and photography and all sorts like that, it really speaks to my audience a lot. And so he taught me about how to go from freelancing to go from the content creation part of things, how to actually use your story, and also how to use that as a product by also using it as a lot about your content, so people actually resonate with you a whole lot. Because especially with his content, it's a lot more of a style of his, so nobody can't really copy it. His is more about monochrome, depression, mental health and all those kind of things, whereas mine is like having autism, talking about my photography, and also talking about Batman and how he helped me in terms of my obsession with photography, mindset, and all those kind of things as well. Talking about content structure, what I do like, my interests, and all sorts, and how your story, all about you document that shit, even with your phone and all sorts, and nothing can stop you. And you just basically just believe in yourself as well. Just mainly about your belief system, and all about how to, just making sure that you are on top of your game, and making sure you're just 1% better every single day. And if you think you can, which is always his line that he always uses in his post, of course. So, but also the moment that you stop comparing yourself towards others is the moment you actually start to get clearer in terms of what you want to do, what your intent is, and what your what and your why as well, and how you're going to do it, especially. Because with me, I tend to get a lot more like messy, and I start to just do things, and then sometimes I second guess myself a whole lot, which I still do now. I still overthink. I'm still like person that's like that, but I'm more about action now instead of just procrastinating a whole lot. Because once you start procrastinating and once you start thinking about it too much, you start to just overthink, and then you go, oh, it's not a good idea, nobody's gonna like this. But it's like, well, just post it out, post that video out, start doing that. Because when you're just posting stuff out there, and you start to share your struggles, you start to share a specific thing like autism or ADHD or anything that you have in general, even if you don't have special needs, you start to really show yourself, and you start to really like yourself, especially with your content as well. Because sometimes you see a lot of people now, whenever they're posting content out, it's like a totally different person than what they are when you first see them. Like there's just many people out there now, they're literally saying, I don't like my content now because it doesn't have me in there. It's just a robot sort of thing. It's them, but it's not their actual self. So you get to see a lot of creators like that. And if you have that, you get to see why. And you gotta go like, I don't really like this person's content because it doesn't really feel like them. It doesn't really feel like that person I've met before. So if you are the type of person who tends to struggle with overthinking and all that, just make the process of creating content a bit more easier, so that way it starts to become not a chore. Because when you start making it a chore, you start to make it as this big production thing. Whereas me right now, I'm just recording on my phone and I'm just out of the backyard. That's all I'm doing. Literally, it can be just as easy as this. Okay? It's not that hard. Like, it's gonna be hard at the beginning because obviously you're gonna try and speak one-handed, but with like first time, just practice and start to get those rips, and then that way your self-doubt can just be crushed within that thing. And so it's just all about repetition, and start doing the things that you don't like to be doing. Because I didn't like to be doing the videos back then 6 to 8 times in a row when trying to get one sentence in. And then once I talked about Tom Noski about that, he said structure your script to make it easier for you to speak, rather than just trying to put in this whole entire big paragraph into one sentence and into one take, because that's just it's unbearable. So once I start doing structure, that's what he helped with JMOS. He helped me a lot with content formats, how to structure and who you are, and also how to use different content formats and how you use carousels, how to use these certain things. Mostly about Instagram and mostly about techniques and all these type of things. With Cut Chronos, how to use your story, how to use who you are, how to document and also make yourself the person that you want to be, and be able to, you know, chase a goal as well. That's what you want to be doing as well. So that's how these three people really helped me out, if that wasn't clear enough. But that's how these three people do. Like sometimes you have to go from mentor to mentor, and sometimes you learn different things from them, and they all just create a version of you that you never really see before. So if you keep doing it by yourself over and over again, you're not going to like the process. You're not going to like the process of creating content overall. So once you start doing those certain things with other people, other creatives and all these other things, you start to make it a bit more easier. And if you do compare yourself to others, it takes the joy out of it. That's why I don't really consume content very much, unless it's the people I actually do like and who I like to listen to. That's about it. Other than that, everyone else is just noise for me at the moment. Besides people that I actually do like, and also the people that I like to listen to, or either it's people that I've worked with, or it's people that I have, you know, aspired to really like the content, or either they speak to me in a way that I go, okay, I actually quite like you as a person. So that's what you try and do. You try and get people to like you as a person on Instagram, and then once they meet you, that you're not any different. So yeah, these are the three mentors that really helped me the most. And of course, I'm not really the biggest success story for these guys, but I always like to make sure to, you know, being able to help myself and also being able to, you know, have these mentors as well. So if you are starting it in terms of, you know, having that comparison within yourself as well, make sure to really go for a mentor who really talks to you, like specifically talks about your problems and all sorts. So that way you actually feel like you're actually investing into this person and it's actually the right person for you. So if you really are stuck with comparison, you're really stuck with your photography, and you're just stuck with anything in general with terms of content creation, photography or anything like that, comment 28 below and you'll learn 28 ways to master photography in 28 days as well. Because with this email course, I've helped one person out at the moment, and she is actually beginning to actually do a photography business with herself, of actually taking photos of mandatory you know, couples and all sorts of their babies and all sorts. So if I've helped one person out, then you can help many people out. All you gotta do is just get out that small box that you've created for yourself and start operating into a bigger creative process that you've always done for yourself. So like and subscribe, and there'll be a lot more videos coming soon.